This is where the fun begins.
Are you sure? So be it. Did you miss me?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of CAF Chat on a Sunday afternoon. So if you know Lighter Shade of Brown, you would get that tune. Yeah. And so welcome here. I did, take a hiatus for Thursday and stuff, taking care of some, personal stuff and all that. And so I wanted to conclude the Appreciation Month, Star Wars Appreciation Month with you guys. I was hoping to be in cosplay. The costume was bigger than it said it was on me, but I am in a fitness plan. I am losing weight, toning down, I guess you can say, and gaining muscle. And it was going to be Princess Leia, her indoor outfit. So not the slave. Sorry, you guys, if you're anticipating the slave Leia outfit. No. So I had to send that back, and hopefully maybe one day I'll pop on and I'll be in her indoor outfit and surprise you guys on that. So I see people are jumping on, and if you're catching the replay, press that like button. Let me know in the comments as well. And thank you for your continued support. So today is basically we're ending with the scheduled Star Wars Appreciation Month and week 4, which would have ended by CAF Chat this last Thursday. But because I did take a hiatus, I still wanted to conclude this to celebrate George Lucas, the PT, and the expanded universe. So here we are right here. And so I have some special things I'm sharing here. I do have the Revenge of the Sith dictionary, visual dictionary here with me that will go into the EU, showing that a lot of these character development also included their EU aspect, like how Anakin got his scar, all of that. And then I do have the Star Wars archives for episode 1 through 3 with me as well. And we'll go over some of what George Lucas had to say regarding the making of the PT and stuff. So I have that information in front of me that I want to share with you guys, as well as going through the OT, or not the OT, sorry, the expanded universe. So let's see who's in the chat. And see, I've got my bun up. I'm still teacher mode style for teaching yoga. I wore this t-shirt today with a sports bra underneath there. So, and then my leggings. So I'm still kind of made up for yoga, but we are here. So I'm happy to be here. And I tried my best to outline my name in Sith red right here, celebrating the PT and all that. So I see you guys are jumping in. Please share the stream out to all your social media. Let people know we're live here and invite them in. So we have Rodimus Prime. Hi, OG. How you been? I've been doing well. Thank you. And then, of course, Soul Assassin, hit the like and share the stream out. And as you're coming in, I did put up a poll regarding which is your favorite prequel movie. Of course, we know the names, but I'll give that to you anyways. The Phantom Menace is at 17%. Attack of the Clones is at 8%. And Revenge of the Sith is leading by a whopping 75%. So keep voting. If you haven't had a chance to vote in. I just want to know your guys' which one is within our chat and our little community here today. which one's going to win out. Doesn't mean that it may be the all-time favorite. We all have our own opinions. And then, of course, Soul Assassin with his quirky self. Obviously, the Clone Wars film is the best OG. And then Melissa Lord, how are you doing? Hey girl, OG Star Wars, how are you? It's so great to see you in the chat, especially when it's a day that you can come and join in. And let's see who is, and then we have Corey Cochran here. Hi all. And thank you guys for tuning in. I know it's a Sunday. It's something that hasn't, I really normally don't stream on, but I'm happy to be here with you guys. Yeah. And then of course, my mug here. Now, this is not a typical day. We are in the afternoon. But what are you enjoying while we sit here to chat? So what are you enjoying? What's your beverage? I do have coffee. I had water this morning, a little bit of coffee before I took off, and now I'm finishing my coffee. Let me see here. What does this say? Jim says, hello, Jim. How you doing? Didn't you have a Zeltron cosplay a while back? I edited a picture on my my Photoshop, and I forgot what the name was of that cover layover, but it made my skin like a Zeltron. So I edited the picture. I thought it was pretty cool, and I shared it. So I guess you can say in a way that I did. I don't know, but yeah, I'm not going to try to paint myself physically purple or blue or that, like that fuchsia color, red color of Zeltrons. All right. So Kenny Long, how are you doing? Good afternoon, Laura. I'm in a rather dark place with Star Wars. Love the original trilogy and most of the EU, but absolutely despise what those cultural vandals, Parasite at Lucasfilm has done to Star Wars. Yeah, I know there's people that are going through their mixed emotions on what's going on with Star Wars these days. And as I say, and I always say, the heart of Star Wars is always in George Lucas' era of Star Wars. So staying within the original stuff does help alleviate a lot of that stuff, and don't expect anything to remotely resemble what George and his company put out to come out with Disney Star Wars. So don't put those expectations there, and stay where the heart of Star Wars is. Mr. Dystopian's here. Revenge of the Sith honestly almost ties with Empire. Awesome. And thank you so much, Melissa, for becoming a channel member. Let me see what it is. Let me look on the screen. And again, if you guys are coming in, please. So she is a Jedi Knight. Thank you so much. So if you guys are coming in, vote and get your vote in. You don't have to explain why you're voting for that, but if you want to share, and then go ahead. Revenge of the Phantom Clone. Yes. And then Kenny Long says, I don't care for the prequels. I'll still watch them, but I will not watch anything those scum-sucking gutter trash that Lucasfilm put out, with the exception of Rogue One. We're going to talk a little bit about that coming soon, tonight or today. Cringe Factor. Here is the announcement on Cringe Factor, and we'll get into that. So we're going to talk about Star Wars, Disney Star Wars, bringing back two iconic Jedi from the dead. But we are also going to talk about what Gilroy and his associate said about when George Lucas called him about Rogue One. So we'll get into that. And so we'll get into that. And let's see here. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Rogue One is a ripoff of Dark Empire and other lore that's around that time frame. So if it feels comfortable to you, it feels like it's done good, then I suggest that you step away from that and get into the original lore, where dark forces, when they stole the Death Star plan, all of that, Kyle Katarn, Jan Ors, all of that is 100 times better than the ripoff Rogue One. Let's see here. Oh, wait, I didn't answer that. Let me see. Have you seen the Darth Plagueis versus Darth Venmus fan-made animation on YouTube? I think I have. I think I want to clip that too for my channel. So yeah, I just got to get on the ball. Black tea, orange peel tea with honey for sweetening. Oh, that sounds really, really good. A nice Sunday. Well, I don't know if it's afternoon for you, but here where I live at, it's afternoon. Captain Robert April. What I miss? Oh, we're just beginning. I'm saying hello to everyone. We are going to talk about George Lucas, the PT, the expanded universe, and then we're going to get into cringe factor. Let's see here. All right, so a lot of emojis. Hello, Matt G. How are you doing? And then, oh, I hate when this jumps on me. The Sentinels here. Cheers to you as well. What more shocking to me is how everybody has a memory of has memory hold Guinea Tartakovsky's contributions in all the authors and comics book artists over Dave Filoni. It's amazing what they want to disassociate versus what they want to associate with what is the Clone Wars and stuff. And I think you guys might agree with me, and we talked about this on the spacing, that this rebooting, I guess you could say, or this change in direction, it's almost like Filoni was made for the Disney direction of Star Wars, because all of this started happening with Dave Filoni. And whether George approved it or not, before the buyout, they were starting to retcon or correct stuff that TCW contradicted. So it's almost like Filoni fits in more or less with Disney's vision than ever with the vision of George Lucas. And I will leave it at that. I appreciate you, darling. And hail, yes, howdy. How are you doing? Or should I say, men say this in my culture, but you guys might recognize this. How? Yeah, that's a men's greeting for hello, but that's like if you watch like any shows that has parody of Native Americans and stuff like that, they'll say how. And even if they're not Lakota. So I thought maybe I'd make you guys laugh. And I do have 2 super chats I will get to you guys here in a minute. A lot of people don't like the prequels, but compared to what we got from Disney, they are great. I would say a lot of people still like the prequels. They were very, very, very popular. There's characters and some dialogue that people did not like. That doesn't mean that that's hate towards the prequels itself. You could still like someone, but still not like something within that movie or that lore or that novel or whatever. You could say, okay, I really love this. It's one of my favorites, but this right here, what were they thinking? So we have that. So I think we got to start, stepping away from thinking not liking of a character means hate overall of the show. Let's see here. And the Sentinel, I think I find the people who say Rogue One is a top 3 Star Wars movies are the best Star Wars prequel to be a little sus fact. And the reason is because it's a bastardization of a better story. I agree. So let me go ahead and get these super chats that are coming up so I don't lose them. So, oh, thank you. So MB Geek Bar and Grill, $5 super chat. I find I can separate the EU versus Disney EU. Love OG, love prequels 7 through 9. Yeah, let's not go there. Rogue One, good. Solo, not near the level of AC Crispin did or Brian Daley. Let's not forget about Brian Daley. When AC wrote the Han Solo trilogy, she also went off of Brian Daley's lore or off of the lore from that to make it, all like make it congruent, make it one continuity. And so that's a beautiful thing. So let's not forget about Brian Daley. And if you have not read the Brian Daley trilogy of Han Solo, his adventures, I recommend that you do pick it up. All right, so let me go get this other super chat here. And Abunas, $10 here, a channel member as well. So happy to see you back on CAF Chat. I'll be listening and back and forth as I am in the midst of creating music for DC and prepping for dinner tonight. Well, you could put down the music, but you can still participate while you cook dinner. No, I'm joking. Do what you need to do. EU forever, even though I am dirty rogue one lover. And that's the thing. I can't, there's no, Some people do have bad taste. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Let me see what's going on here. Now I forgot where I picked off of. There we go. Dark Forces. Here we go. You know, it's only a matter of time before Disney decides to dump and replace all the Indiana Jones lore as well. Well, I guess you could say in a sense that the current Indy, it's showing. If you look back and look at the history on how they start rebooting, you will see that probably with Indy right now. It's all there. The signs are all there. Just look at their methods and what they used with other properties. It's there. All right. And this and says, if anybody cares, or if anybody's career has been proven to not be a fluke, it's Genndy Tartakovsky's. The man goes from project to project, and at least that's a 7 out of 10 to Looney goes from project to project and fail. Yep. Coke. I need caffeine, but I don't like coffee. Okay. That's fair enough. It's 4:27 p.m. now. Wow. Okay. So you're in the evening time now. And Jason is here as well. Hey, darling. What's up? How you doing? And then Robotic Pope, Soldier for the Empire. And let's see here. Let me scroll down. We have another channel member here. Thank you so much. Support real Star Wars. Destroy shills. There you go. And like I said, I try to come close to a Sith color red for my name, the name portion here, our tag, the name tag. And let's see here. Diddly squat. What's up? Just this morning, I learned that Sean McRandall met Mark Hamill back in, there's pictures. There's pictures of that. And I think I think it was Open Air or Tim. He is the one that shared that on Twitter, their picture together. Yeah. So isn't that good? That's something that's neat because you can say, oh, look at, there is Mara and there is Luke, right? So, yeah. Let's see here. And so we're going to get into, I know everybody's still pouring in here. Vote for your favorite prequels. I'm going to go ahead and see what the standings are here. I'll keep it up for another 30 minutes just to give people who are coming in now a chance to vote. So favorite prequel movie. The Phantom Menace is at 23. Attack of the Clones is still at last place at 9%. And Revenge of the Sith is at 68. So between the Phantom and Revenge, it keeps going back and forth with Attack of the Clones barely gaining any momentum. And that's fine. I just want to see with everybody that's tuning in, what is your favorite or what are you voting for? And see which one is going to win out here. Of course, this is not a big time like statistic poll. It's just something fun between all of us. Let me see here. Let's see here. My favorite prequel movie is obvious Revenge of the Sith, but Phantom Menace holds so much love for me. And gotta go, Laura. My sister Catherine is visiting. You need to be on Midnight's Edge Monday night toxic. You know what? I was one of the OGs. And I had a falling out. And so I don't think that's ever going to fruition. But however, if you like them, keep supporting them. I know it's a good time and stuff, and enjoy. So, yeah. Let's see here. Would love a fan film of Operation Skyhook. Oh, that would be interesting. And Tim says, ha. And then 80% of the love for Rogue One is at least the last scene. And that's what I was going to get at. I was going to mention that when we do talk about this later, but is the last scene with Vader. So basically it's the dingling, dingling. It's the dingling of the keys. It's the dangling of the keys. Oh my God. You can make that into something else, but I'm pretty sure someone will in the chat. Love you, Queen. Laugh my ass off. There you go. Yep, I know. Like I said, sometimes we all don't have good taste, especially when it comes to Star Wars, so. Zim says, OG Star Wars, I did read the Brian Daly books. The Queen of Ranroon shows that I'm a master level troll. Ah, okay. So those are great books too. So if you've like anybody in the chat, if you've read AC Crispin, but not Brian Daly's, go back and read that. Go back and read that. That is some fun stuff. I highly recommend it. Go back and read that. All right. All right, so I know everybody's all responding back and forth here, and I will tune into you guys here pretty soon. But let's get into some things about the PT. So I know we have this voting. I know we're voting in like what is our favorite, and coming to a community chat on who's or what's the top out of the PT. But I wanted to get into a lot more of the PT and how George Lucas world build with the EU for the PT. And I did, and I didn't go back to find the tweet, but the beginning of week 4, I did ask in Twitter, can you name some of the EU stuff, like the lore, characters, planets, what have you, that George used to world build the PT? So if anybody wants to share here, if you can name, it could be one thing. We all know Coruscant. That's an easy one. So no Coruscant. I already said that. That's my take. That's the easiest one. So name the EU, whether it's a character, planet, vehicle, or what have you, that George Lucas used to world build, expand the PT. So there's a lot to name. There's a lot to name. One of the easier ones, Aayla Secura, Coruscant, which we all know where that came from. The name of Coruscant came from. So I'm waiting for you guys. Come on. I should have wore glasses. I should have put on like a nice little bow, like a tie here, and look like a teacher or whatever. But that's okay. Like I said, I came straight from teaching yoga. And so that's Aayla Secura, Quinlan Voss. There you go. So Quinlan Voss was inspired by a side character, but however, yes, Quinlan Voss originally was made in the EU. What? She's not even in the PT. You have done lost your mind. And then it looks like Soul Assassin has a boner for someone right there. I'm just going to put that there. All right, open airlock. Ancien, yes. Hyperspace War. Corellian Bulk Freighter. There you go. Double-bladed lightsaber. Correct. You're fired, Soul. There you go. He is on it. He's on it. I think he's either drunk, and then through his drunkenness, he's like revealing his true intentions, or he fell on his head, or maybe both. And Kashyyyk. Let's see here. And Captain Robert April. One way to fully appreciate the PT is to start off with the Phantom Menace and proceed on to A New Hope. They all flow together as a series. That was George's intention. So Voss was a extra in the Phantom Menace in the background, like Aayla Secura. So yeah, so the extra in the background did not have a character name. So when Jan Dodon and them were creating Voss, she asked if she can use the likeness of that background character for the character she's creating. So even though now he is in the Phantom Menace, before that wasn't him. So she created him, and then that became him. So if that makes sense. So a little bit there. The scene of Obi-Wan briefing Anakin on the Outer Rim sieges in Revenge of the Sith has 3 references. Seleucami, Boz Pity, and Quinlan Voss. There you go. You're just having a good time just trolling away, huh? All right. The Plagueis story at the space opera. Right. They went back and retconned the scene where Jar Jar nearly gets his butt beat in the character that was Quinlan Voss, his character design. They just said was Quinlan Voss weenie has memory loss. My head went somewhere else with that weenie, but and Zagrat 315, howdy y'all. Howdy. How are you doing? Should I say how? That's the Min's phrase. I'm just being silly today. I never took offense to that. Well, one time I did, but then I, lightened up and said, you know what? It's funny because everybody thinks how is what all natives say. So I get it. So when I just took it as a joke, but that's what Lakota men say to each other. Like that's their greeting. So women, we don't say how, but I'm just doing that to make fun. And Marcos A, waving to everyone in the chat. How are you doing? Let me see if there's any. I'm sorry if I'm typing like I had a stroke, but I'm doing voice to text. Oh, so your speech is responsible for that. Captain Robert says, I think I need to speak up on behalf of the Mandalorians. So there's space Texan rednecks. So what? I'm working on my own armor. Oh my God. So with this, I wanted to ask you guys just to kind of just get you guys' heads really thinking and getting deep into the lore there, because there's still conversations about George not liking the EU. In fact, I just engaged in that this morning. If you haven't been following me, and some of you guys like, oh, here goes the lore again. But people still dry hump that Starlog post or quote and think that George's word is like the law to everything, even though his own company has corrected the statement on what he said about Star Wars being a parallel or multiverse and all that stuff. And then George not liking the EU, that, so all of that talk there. And I'm not trying to get in here to debunk anything because that's already been done time and time again. But what I'm getting into is discussing what EU material that was used for the PT, and does this create gray areas of the EU and now being a part of this hierarchy of G canon, especially when it's mentioned Voss in the books and his missions, and then it's restated in Revenge of the Sith, so we have all those gray areas. And my point to that is, because there are gray areas, or because there are gray areas created, that means, and that is evidence to the continuity within the single line of canon is just one continuity, one history of lore. And what I wanted to get into here is, I have this here and I don't want to lose my page. One of the dictionaries for the movies, visual dictionaries. And I have it here with me because when you read through every single character and their story, what have you, it tells a bit of history in there. And some of that history goes into what happened to them in the EU. But why is that? Because if this was a multiverse and that they're parallel, they weren't on the same timeline, and George didn't care for the EU, why would they, in the visual dictionary, share the character's story arc that happens in the EU? So there are source materials, there are materials out there that fans can get, that the company has published, that shares these movie characters and their history outside the movies. So, and I was going to get to this, the Sentinel. So in his, and I was going to pull that up here. I have it with me. It referenced his Asajj Ventress, but it's about Anakin's scar. And it tells who he got his scar from. Now, if you guys remember George's interview and people were asking, where did Anakin get that scar? And he's like, oh, that's for the novels to share, or the books, or the EU to share. I know he didn't say EU, but the books. I think he said the books to share. That's their story to share. Meaning that it's all one continuity, because if it wasn't, then he wouldn't be referencing where it's going to be told and how he got his scar to make it relevant to the story. And that's my point. That's my point. So I have this page here, and it has Shakti on here, but it talks about the Jedi Temple. So, with almost all able-bodied Jedi Knights deployed far from Coruscant, so this is the fall of knighthood or fall of night. So this is the attack on the temple or the siege of the temple by Anakin or Darth Vader. Um, with almost all able-bodied Jedi Knights deployed far from Coruscant. Now, if you know the lore, this was all staged. They made sure all the capable knights and masters were away from the temple. This was staged by Palpatine. You know, this everybody was out in the outer rim sieges, made the temple vulnerable for attack, right? Those who remain in residence are left to fend for themselves. Even the temple's finest swordsmaster is no match for Anakin Skywalker. And the stormtroopers, so they used stormtroopers in this, they weren't stormtroopers yet. So there is a contradiction there, right? Is no match for and the stormtroopers of the 501st Legion. Not one Jedi Knight or youngling will survive the horrific onslaught. So this is from Revenge of the Sith. So when you look at what's coming out with Disney's Star Wars, it says not one Jedi Knight or youngling will survive the horrific onslaught. But who survives? Who gets rescued? It's a little quiz here. Who gets rescued? And it's a little green bean that I hate. So there you go. So I just wanted to point that out here. So Soul Assassin says Lucas has a hand in everything. He would get daily facts from authors that he would read and answer. Nothing left Lucasfilm without his approval. Right. And even if he was busy, he would have, someone positioned to help these authors in the creation of the lore. And that's one thing that I really love to read about, growing up and stuff, is how did these authors get together? How did they come up with this lore that seems like so put together? Yes, there's minor discrepancies. There's always going to be, especially when the lore expands bigger and bigger, gets broader, all of that. The Sentinel. It's also references. He was knighted after winning the battle of, and that's in there too. So, yeah. Simple, we have the EU fans. We're the ones buying the books and those visuals. Correct. And let's see here. Didn't they say that the most updated version of the movies, the relative guidebooks, and the novelizations are part of George's canon? You mean G canon? And the movie radio drama movies, or the radio drama movies, that's G canon too. So, yeah. And I think he just slipped in the tub, but I do not think they will tell that. Oh, yeah. So that part of the quote, yeah. So that was part of the quote. That was George Bean having his dry humor. So that doesn't mean that that's what really happened with Anakin. That was his dry humor. And the Sentinel says, exactly, and Anakin's knighting ceremony, he let that be handled by the Clone Wars microseries, correct. And in fact, with that, George did also work with Gandhi too on creating that. He had a lot to say in that. And in fact, when George is leaded up into the battle above Coruscant, that really got Gandhi and his crew excited because they get to do a microseries that directly leads into the movies. Now, if it was a parallel or multi-universe, then that wouldn't be possible because it would be on a different plane. Let's see here. Shakti and Ayla Secura both died. I don't care what current Lucasfilm says. We are going to cover that today, so stay tuned since it's a PT topic. The Sentinel says, the Outer Rim sieges, that's right. Mm-hmm. And let me see what's going on down here. And I am going to get into my Star Wars Archives episodes 1 through 3 book here, because there's some things I want to talk about with development of the PT as well. I believe Anakin got his iconic scar from the battle with Ventress. Yes. Yeah. So that's it. So I did cover that in a CAF chat when me and Stig were reviewing those comics, which I highly recommend to get into those Republic comics. They are amazing. They are part of the Clone War multimedia project, which has so much great synergy. Like they all go together so well. They blend with the movies so well. Um, kind of puts the Clone Wars to shame when it comes to continuity, because there was so much of it that was well put together within that material. And then now you have lazy the Clone Wars, which they set a mission for. They didn't keep the mission of it being the clones telling their story. So there's a lot of things that they didn't do, and there's a lot of directions that they didn't take that made sense. There are some, don't get me wrong, there's some episodes I thought were pretty good, but majority of it I did not agree with. So, and I'll just leave it at that. The Sentinel says Anakin got his scar in the lightsaber duel with Ventress. Yeah. And baby gimmick Yoda and my girl Riva face green. Yeah. So you have that. Yeah. Jar Jar rescues Grogu. Right on. Misa gonna grab this green thing. That didn't sound too good. That didn't sound too good. And no, Anakin isn't knighted in the Republic complex. He's congratulated on achieving knighthood by another Jedi on the Jedi Council. I'm going to go ahead and check the poll here. I want to keep it up until 2 p.m. my time. So if you're coming in, whoa, we have a switch here. All right. So if you're tuning in, vote. You have about 8, 9, 10 minutes. Favorite prequel movie. So this is the standings right now. And this kind of jumped between the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. So the Phantom Menace is at 17% and Attack of the Clones is at 24%. That's a huge jump, because last time it was significantly low. And of course, Revenge of the Sith is still leading at 59%. So it's going to be up for another 8 to 10 minutes. So go vote if you have not had a chance to. So Asajj gave him that scar. I was wondering about that. Yeah. So that's a great one there. I need to go ahead and start pulling those digital comics off, and maybe doing mini little review series of some of those arcs and sharing, like I do PDF projects for the channel, like whenever I present something, sometimes for CAF chat, and specifically talk about those little arcs. That would be fun. That would be a fun portion of CAF chat, like where did Anakin get his scar, or what was Shakti's true death. And you can't say deleted scenes is one of the times she died, because that's not canon. We're talking about canon. So we can get specifically into these little arcs that we hardly talk about. Like even Battle of Jabim is one that I stopped putting together, but I'm linking Battle of Jabim with Anakin to Luke's confrontation on Jabim, and The Shadows of Our Fathers, I think it's called. So I want to link those two together, and I want to somehow gift it to channel members as something as a thank you, like getting all your guys' emails after I'm done putting them together and sending you the copy of those two stories together, because they complement each other so much. You have Anakin's story of Jabim, and then you have Luke's story of Jabim, and it also reflects what Anakin did there and how Luke was treated because of Anakin's decisions. And so I think I'm going to finish putting that project together, and I want that to be able to be a special gift that I can email channel members as a thank you. I don't really want to make money off of it per se. But I just want to have a thank you kind of thing, because I haven't had a chance to do any live streams with you guys yet or anything like that. So I need to finish that project. I think that would be something fun to send you guys. Captain Robert, that's between you guys. I was like, who's Captain Robert? And this is Captain Robert. This is why I haven't read most of the EU. And why? Because it's a lot. Diddley Squat says a lot of inconsistencies during the PT era happened because the movies were still in the writing process. In fact, the PT itself contradicted previous story statements made by George, Hamill, and Carey. There was growth When the book started being written, as the movies were being produced, the authors did meet with George, and they did meet together to create a fluid storyline. TCW is the one that contradicts, and that was done way after the PT was developed and the stories around it. But that's how things work during rewriting and reshooting. The Clone Wars destroyed the EU with the add of T canon. That was only added because Filoni bitched and cried and moaned and groaned because he didn't want to be part of the EU. That's it. That's all. It doesn't have anything significant because none of any of the cartoon television projects that George created beforehand, because it's not G canon. They're not in G canon, but they were never moved to T. So if you look at the history of Filoni, when he was when he was shown by fans that his lack of knowledge of the EU after he stated that he's a big fan of the EU is when he started changing his tone of the EU. So there's that history. Many fans have talked about this before. So there's that history. Let's see here. Captain Robert. Oh, you guys are discussing. Oh, gee, did the Hulk just show up? What's that? Haha, you did your best, Jar Jar. Yes, I did. They'll probably end up bringing Asajj Ventress back because she died in the novel died in a novel, and she's a woman, so it's guaranteed no one ever's really gone. Who knows what they're going to do these days? So let me take a look at the poll, and then we'll get into what I want to discuss with the Star Wars archives here. So we are closing out here. 31 votes. And as I talk, if you're coming in and you want to vote, please do it now. Please do it now. And Soul Assassin, thank you for sharing the audio Battle of Jabim 1. All right, so the Phantom Menace is at 16%. Attack of the Clones is now 23%. And Revenge of the Sith is at 61%. So this is the standing. Revenge of the Sith is the majority rule on the favorite of the PT. Thank you guys so much for doing this with me and sharing, voting for your favorite. Let me see here. I noticed how Luke and Anakin, when they got back to Jabim, are both called Commander Skywalker. Mm-hmm. At that time, Luke was commander. The Sentinel says, again, the more I learn about what they did to Anakin and TCW, the more disgusted I am with the entire thing and everybody who participated in it. It's beta Star Wars. Yeah. So we have that. All right. So I'm going to read this here, and I will get back to the comments and chat with you guys. So this is, if you haven't had a chance, you know what? I'm going to show it to you guys. Mine is a littler version than what Tim, if you're a channel member of Tim's, he just put a channel member video in. It's a tour of his studio. So channel members of Open Airlock Policies channel, go watch that video when you have a chance. Lot of fun stuff that you can really be like, damn, that's pretty cool. But he has the larger version. I have the compact. This thing is pretty heavy. I mean, I could probably knock someone out with this, but it is the Star Wars Archives episodes 1, 2, and 3. So the prequel trilogy. So Paul Duncan is the one that interviewed along with Colin Odell and Michelle LeBlanc. But this is basically pertaining to, George's work on the PT. And it goes step by step of like the script writing, all of that. This is so neat just to read through. I highly recommend this. It goes into so many directions of development with the movies. And some things that you may not even think about may be in here as well. So George Lucas, after I finished Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi in 1983, Financially and physically, the prequels couldn't be done. I was recovering from a divorce, and if you haven't noticed, but someone was trying to make it sound like Marsha Lucas was responsible for the OT's success, like solely responsible, not George, and that she mostly wrote the OT as well. So I shared that on Twitter, and so everybody, it seems like everybody puts this woman on a pedestal. And I don't understand why, because yeah, she edited, she was one of the editors. She was well known for like re-editing the space battle scene, right? So that conflict she re-edited and it would turned out pretty good, obviously, because that's one of the favorite ones is the trench run and stuff, right? And but and then people also say, oh, well, she saved Star Wars in the editing in edit, but when you look back at the history and you do your research, she wasn't there for the final edit. And you know what? George is one of them that's responsible for the final edit. So, people, they do get stuck on this narrative without researching. I love researching. And if someone challenges me, then I'll go and sit down and I'll really look, really, really investigate, go find the information and share it and stuff. I'm just big on that. I just love, like, if there's something that I'm like, okay, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I need to look into this further, I'll go and research it. But that's that goes into my background. If you guys haven't heard this about me before, I was a background investigator. And I wanted to know what was going on in this person's life. Like, what did they reveal? What did they not reveal? What are they hiding? Or and if something comes up, then I have to go get the court documents, look further into it. It's just amazing to me just to um, research, look into, find the truth, right? So with Marsha, yeah, she helped. Yeah, she's George's wife. Yeah, they had pillow talk back and forth about some things that George was pondering about with the lore and stuff like that. But was she as significant as some people say? Probably not. Um, in fact, she mocked George on the use of the Force. And the icons on Earth, or whatever the hell the name is. When we review that on the spacing, we revealed a lot about her. She's just a bitter ex-wife. I'm just gonna leave it at that. She's a bitter ex-wife. All right, so I'm done with that tangent. And I didn't have the technology, so this is continuing on. So basically, he was recovering from divorce, which was pretty consequential, and the financial side of things, and didn't have the technology. So basically, he felt that what they had at the time wasn't up to par to what he envisioned, and that's what I'm getting at. But you can kind of, question that, but I'm not going to go into that right now. So continuing. Yoda couldn't move back, or Yoda couldn't move more than 6 feet, and I couldn't show his legs. So I couldn't show him in a wide shot and couldn't show him running, jumping, or walking any distance. Yoda couldn't fight. So we already know that we got to see Yoda fighting. We got to see him against Dooku and then later against Palpatine. And so with George saying that, he already had a vision of seeing a full-fledged like Yoda, not as a puppet per se, showing off his abilities of fighting. So we already knew this. This is back, in the beginning here, when he started really putting ideas on paper to further his story with the PT. He says we could have tried to animate him with stop motion, but I couldn't really get him to do what I wanted him to do. So I said, what the heck? I'll just spend my time developing technology and produce films. And so that's what he did. He created like Pixar. ILM came from him too, and the advancements from that came out of the OT. So they continue to further push the envelope from filmmaking, right? Also, I was so tired and burnt out that I needed to go and do other things for a while to replenish my creative juices. And this is all George speaking here in the beginning of this book. I said I would do the new Star Wars when my life was able to accommodate it. And lo and behold, and I think this was back in 1993, I believe he's speaking here, um, or maybe a little sooner than that. But yeah, so we know that closer to 1999 is when he's like, okay, I'm ready. We're going to do this. Now going back to this page, I learned a lot of lessons in those years. One is that the only true route to happiness is through caring about other people. If all you care about is yourself and about your things and your stuff, you will be unhappy the rest of your life, no matter how much you accommodate. And that sounds like Anakin. He was worried about himself. Yeah, he didn't want to lose Padme, right? But it was in a selfish way because Anakin was worried about himself more than anything else. He was seeing Padme as a possession more than a partner, more than someone that he can unconditionally love. And mind you, he loved her, right? We all know that. But he looked more into this as an attachment of possession, which overcame him. Because, he has that history of his mom leaving, or not leaving, his mom dying, him taking his rage out on the Tusken Raiders, all of that. And then so he continues, for 15 years, I dealt with my family, the idea of taking 5 or 6 years to do the intense work that I would take to make the prequels. And he has stated that many times, even when he decided to sell the company, he even stated this would take this amount of time. And I honestly just want to commit myself to my family and retire. If I step back and hired someone to take my spot and while still being the head of the company, I would still micromanage, and I need my attention towards my family. So, and I still want to give the fans what they love, Star Wars. And so his heart was in it for the fans, but his heart was truly with his new family when it came to the sellout, to the sequel trilogy that he written for Star Wars, or for Disney, sorry, for Disney. And he goes on to say, 5 or 6 years to do the intense work that it would take to make the prequels is daunting. And it's also something I haven't really had the mindset to get into. So this is the early years. This is why we waited. This is why there was a huge gap, because his priorities were different at the time. But did it hurt Star Wars? No, it did not hurt Star Wars. In fact, we got a lot of amazing lore through Lucasfilm, through the books, through the games, through the comics. The EU kept Star Wars alive during that time. I'm going back and doing them now because I'm not getting any younger. We've also advanced the technology to the point that we can bring characters and environments to life on the screen. And I can tell stories that I couldn't tell before. So again, this is where we see the beginning of the sequel, or the special editions, come into play too, because of the advancement of technology. And I can tell stories couldn't tell before, that I've wanted to tell, but I wouldn't dare attempt, and do it in a cost-effective way. I think I could push the envelope to tell stories that are fanciful in nature and fantastic in scope. So that was George's initial thoughts and process of why he paused, because of divorce, because of financial reasons, because of family. He was left a single father, and then he adopted as well. So imagine that, stepping up, being a father to not only your own child, but then adopting. So let me see what you guys have to say. George was pushing the envelope in all areas of entertainment. Yep, he was. Let's see here. In all honesty, I never liked her idea to kill off Obi-Wan just because he wasn't part of the main conflict at the end. Oh, you're talking about Marcia? You were a background investigator, as a private investigator, kind of, I guess you can say. It was all for like employment and stuff, but I made a lot of connections with other gaming commissions, whether it was native or Indian gaming and state gaming. Yeah, it was amazing. I really loved that job, but I left it, but that's another story to tell later. Uh, damn, sound like Disney stars. Oh, well, we could tell that another time. Diddley Squat says a lot of people try to give the credit of Star Wars success to anyone that wasn't George. That's the thing. You'll hear that, like with the script writing, or not the script, the storytelling, the story writing. They don't think George was absolutely involved in the OT. No, he wrote the story, and then he met with his writers too, and together they, wrote. And the Star Wars archives will discuss the development of these stories, like of the story, the storylines and stuff, like the drafts 1, 2, 3, 4 and stuff, and how he worked with his writers to develop the stories. So it's very interesting to say people say, well, George was responsible for everything in the prequel trilogy, that's why it was so bad, versus, oh, George, like George didn't write the OT, that's why it was so good. Yeah, so we have that. Not, and again, people don't research, they don't go back and look at the bigger picture before they blurt out this nonsense, before they puke this shit out. Before they puke this shit out. It's true. OG likes to fight others. Let me see. Yvonne Solomon, hello. How are you doing? Untainted by Pablo Hidalgo. Yeah, let me go ahead and read on. So what I wanted to get into here is a little bit more of what he had to say here. All right. Let's see here. Where's my mark page here? So this book here, it even talks about like George Lucas Story Conference, July 13th through 17th, 1981. There's a little bit of clips there, but I'm not going to read that. But it goes into his development of the PT even before he started even writing further story or expanding on the PT. Myself and others, like Tim, has shared evidence that George knew where he was going with the story when it came to Anakin / Vader's story, and stuff like that. And it's even evident in the movie novels. So he did keep continuity. He knew where he was going. Did he exactly land in the exact detail or scene like on Mustafar? Anakin doesn't go into the lava, but he still gets, like, the lava still reaches his limbs and catches him on fire. So there's that small difference, but everything else is the same basically when it comes to Anakin, right? Or Vader. So there's that. So does he change up a little bit? Yeah. Yeah, he does. We know that already. We know that, George has contradicted what he has said with his actions before and stuff. So there's all of that. There is all of that. So I want to read this one from November 1st, 1994. So it's not going to be long, and then we'll get into cringe factor, or a little bit of the EU and cringe factor. But this cringe factor will also get us more into the EU as well. So okay, let's see here. George Lucas. Today is my first day of writing the new Star Wars series. It's a beautiful sunny day in slightly drought-ridden California. Yeah, I can relate. Took my kids to school this morning. My oldest daughter was sick all night until 5:30 a.m. I got no sleep whatsoever. So it will be a very interesting first day of trying to stay awake more than anything else. That will be the biggest challenge. I am excited about doing this. I've always intended to do these movies and finish them just to satisfy my own anal personality. And that's what he says about himself, his own anal personality. I want to finish everything that I started. I'm working on 3 days a week on Star Wars, and then I have 2 days a week to finish editing 3 young Indiana Jones TV movies. Shepard scripts to Red Tails, and the new Indiana Jones film. Work on an educational film that I've developed to show where education is going to look in the future. So that's interesting, like in the future. And do corporate business. I have 3 companies, Lucasfilm, LucasArts, and Lucas Digital, which is now Industrial Light and Magic and Skywalker Sound. Lucasfilm finances these movies so that there's business involved in this process that a lot of filmmakers don't have to deal with. it allows me. So basically, he's not only a filmmaker, but he's the owner of his company, and a lot of filmmakers are not. But it allows me to the creative freedom to do whatever I want without a studio overseeing the whole process. And that's why George got out of Hollywood. So it's kind of ironic or kind of sad, or both, that he wanted to break out of the Hollywood norm, but later sells his company to Hollywood, basically. Disney is Hollywood. So that's the tragedy. So that's a tragedy of George Lucas. If you want to say anything, if there's any tragedy, that's a tragedy of George Lucas, that he built his company, steered away from the stereotypes and the overbearing Hollywood corporate system, but then ends up selling directly to that. Wow. That's kind of heartbreaking. Kind of heavy, but in a sad way. Not heavy in a good way, but a heavy in a sad way. And then you can kind of probably feel why George said he kind of regrets. He does have some regrets. When you listen to the past interviews, you can tell. But we won't get into that. And then he goes, and I write with a pencil in a ratty, beat up old 3-ring binder. I have written everything I have ever done in the same binder. So basically that binder, just to see that binder of all his ideas for Star Wars and maybe other movies or whatever, that would be interesting to see. I have ever done in the same binder. I started with when I was in college. I have a bunch of them now, but I still have the one I wrote THX in, and I wrote graffiti in. That would be very interesting. And I wrote Star Wars, and I wrote Star Wars. So basically Star Wars is in it too. The original notes and outline for the new trilogy are something like 15 pages. I have to put them into a scene from the script form, or scene form and script form. So basically that's what he's doing. So this was back in 94. I said November 1st, 1994 is when he finally started sitting down and expanding from the notes of the PT that he had, his ideas of Anakin Skywalker, to create the PT. Because he did say that, the tragedy of Anakin was kind of lost in the OT. And that's why he decided to do the PT, because he felt the conclusion of that story ended in Return of the Jedi, right? So he wanted to share more of the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker. And so that's why the story went that way. And, so I thought that was pretty interesting. So when people say that George did not have any plans or ideas when it came to these movies, he sure in the hell did. They may not have been written in like book form, but they were written. There were notes, there were ideas that he had to expand off. And just like I said, when you read the movie novels for the OT, you see glimpses of the story for the PT in there. When you get into some of the comics and some of the early novels, you may see some hints here or there, but mainly the movie stuff, the novel movie stuff. And when you get more into the development and George's interviews and source material and stuff that Lucasfilm has published out, you'll see a lot more of that as well. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And this is what I wanted to get into with the PT and George Lucas, because there has been many talk lately of like even Anakin and like how he turned, why he turned, to turn to the dark side. And that tragedy was the fact that he was so vulnerable that the Predator, who basically is the Sith that is in disguise, Palpatine, who wanted this very, very powerful Force user on his side as his apprentice, started manipulating since he's seen him, and basically that's in the Phantom Menace at the end, that end scene towards the end, where he's like, I'm gonna watch your career with great interest. That's the beginning. That's when you know that, oh shit, something's going on, you know? And I was privileged, or I wouldn't say privileged. I was because it's not a privilege, I guess you can say, but my my age, because a lot of people who became a big prequel trilogy lover are the ones that seen them as when they were younger, and so that's what they grew up with, right? So me, the OT, for the a lot of like future generations, it was the PT. But I was old enough, like 21 or something like that, when the Phantom Menace came out. So I was at a more mature state to really pick up on these nuances that maybe some, and I'm not saying children are dumb or anything. That's not what I'm trying to say. Some of them are very highly intelligent, but sometimes there's nuances that are not picked up right away. That I had, like, I grew up with the OT at a very, very, very young age. So when I got older and started watching like teenage, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't catch up on, I didn't catch that earlier or whatever. And that's even rereading some novels and stuff. We always rediscover something as we get older, as we move on, and as we, read through this stuff. So, I picked up on those nuances, and it just made the story even more interesting and intriguing. And I did enjoy the politics of it because it led to why we got into the situation of that we see in the OT. And even though it wasn't our politics, it was Star Wars politics in that universe, we could still relate to it in a sense of like looking at our own societies and our own reality and say, okay, well, this is similar to this situation, and then wow, I can see that in more of a reasonable outlook, I guess you can say. So when George wrote the PT, and when he produced the movies along with his staff and everybody he hired to come in and help create these stories, he put a lot of depth into it. And sometimes I think because he did put a lot of depth, and there's their storylines and some of the nuances were deeper than maybe people realized in a sense. And I could just hear like these Disney shows. It wasn't that deep. It's just a story of lights or what do you call it? Space wizards and light swords or whatever, But the thing is that they're missing the point. That George made these stories, including the OT, to not only give us hope, but also share with us what path we can go down if we don't, if we allow the government to go in a negative way. And I'm not going to get into a political, geez, Laura, I'm not going to get into politics or political with all this, with what's going on today. But it's just a glimpse into like, oh shit, this stuff can really happen to us, even though the politics are different. People's machinations and wanting to gain power, still the same. So I'm gonna see what you guys are having to say here. It says, I laughed when Palpatine said the watch with great interest line, and only one other person did too. People were looking at me like, what the fuck? I explained it to the guy who asked me after the movie. Yeah, it's like, holy shit, it's like, okay, if you didn't pick up on that, yeah. It wasn't even complex. The politics, the very simple one was more my minute dotted here and there. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm saying like the politics wasn't deep, but the story was behind them, and like how someone can fall when they want to get power and control and all of that. Political. Yeah, political. This is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause. And smash the like button. Yes, smash it. Smash it real good. No, okay. I'm not going to go there. Yeah, so, but anyways, I went down that little tangent there. I just had to talk a little bit about that. I went a little deep, I guess you could say. But with the PT, and I want to look in here real quick. I want to pull up another one here. Before we move on to cringe factor. In fact, You know what? I'm going to keep it on the Shock T page because we're going to get into, well, not Shock. Yeah, Shock T is one of them. So we're going to start getting into cringe factor. But before I do, this is going to be maybe a sticky one. I don't know, but it's a question. I'm going to turn my camera back on. It's a question. What, and I'm not trying to, I just want honest opinions. Right? Yeah, I agree. What did you think about the reveal or how we got to see Jedi in their prime with their lightsaber dueling? Like, with the Force and using the lightsaber duel. What did you think when you first seen it compared to what you seen in the OT with Luke and Vader and stuff? Because now we know that Luke got very unconventional training, and that when we seen his ability, it wasn't at his prime just yet. But when we get to see Jedi fight in the PT, we get to see them in their prime, I guess you can say, in their full training and all that in that direction. So what do you guys think about the lightsaber dueling in the PT? And I'm going to go ahead and bring up the first cringe factor article here, and then go ahead and answer that in the chat while I do this.
So uncivilized.
So here you guys go. So this is about Rogue One, and I promised you guys we were going to talk about this. And this, well, particularly doesn't go into the PT, but it goes into the EU. So many of you guys know that Rogue One, there's a lot of similarities to Dark Forces. A lot of similarities to Dark Forces here. So, and Rogue One came out, what year was it? I don't remember the year exactly, but we know it's been a while since Rogue One came out. And my point to bringing this article up, or at least this quote here, is why is, Gilroy and his associates, and I'm only sharing Gilroy's here, but why are they barely saying that, are revealing that they got a call from George, even though George watched this a long time ago when it first came out. Yeah, 2016. Thank you, Soul Assassin. So when this first came out in 2016, George watched it and then gave him a call. That's what they're saying. But why wait 7 years? If George truly liked or praised this movie, why not have stated that in the beginning? This is where I see where the problem is. If this was really true, mind you, we pointed this out in spacing, so I'm kind of rehashing a little bit on what we talked about. So if you're on spacing, you probably heard my little rant too. But why? Why now? Why now after 7 years? We are in 2023. It was 2016. Wouldn't you think revealing what George said in a phone call, and mind you, they didn't even say any quotes. They didn't even really say exactly what he said, other than he said he liked it or loved it. This is not the full quote. This is like a cherry picked quote here, but he went from like or loved to like to not, and then and saying things, basically in a nutshell. So George truly liked this. Why wasn't this revealed in the beginning? And where is George's actual quotes on like in the show? And I still stand where I stand on this. This is a appealing to fallacy to make a failing property look good. Because I truly believe right now, Disney Star Wars is failing. Because of how well or how less people perceived or seen The Mandalorian and all those movies, all those shows that came out. They weren't a hit. They were liked by some, but they weren't well received. And this with Rogue One, the reason why people may like this or it may feel familiar to George, because they even said, Tony even says that, oh, George liked the direction, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's very similar to Dark Forces in a sense. George approved of that storyline, so it felt familiar to him. That's how I see that. So if he's praising this, then imagine how he felt about Dark Forces, okay? So I'm just going to go there. I'm just going to throw this stuff out like this, some truth to some of this stuff. George allowed Dark Forces to come out. Anything that's published under Lucasfilm is published because George wanted it out there. If George didn't want a storyline to be published, if he didn't like the direction, if it was off with the continuity, it was vetoed, it wasn't published. And Dark Forces is what leads us up to how the Death Star plans are found. Just as Han Solo trilogy, Rebel Dawn novel has another story, because there's more than one Death Star plan. So the Death Star for the original lore, the Death Star plans were separated. So there was different schematics of Death Star plans that were separated from each other, because just so that if one is stolen, the rebels don't have the full plans. So this was very brilliant by the Empire to separate the schematics of the plans, right? So that if one is found, they don't have the entire plans. Whereas in Disney Star Wars, they're together in one facility. And then mind you, the plot to it towards the end contradicts A New Hope, but we already know that. And the only reason why people really love Rogue One, like they really, really, truly remember it, was the member berries of Darth Vader. If he was gone out of it, I don't think people would have liked Rogue One very much. So my thing is with this, going back to what I originally said, why reveal this now, 7 years later? Is it because a lot of shit has been going on with Disney, corporate in general, behind the scenes? That they're reconstructing their Disney Plus. They don't have much hope for their shows. And maybe they're putting Ahsoka's show on a pedestal, hoping that would revive things. For me, though, Ahsoka, she's overplayed. She is now a Mary Sue. Mary Sue doesn't have to always start as this blank slate that is good at everything like we see Rey. Over time, you can turn your character into a Mary Sue. So there's that there. A writer has to be careful not to turn their characters into a Mary Sue. The way Filoni's going with Ahsoka, she's a Mary Sue. Plain and simple. She's a Mary Sue now. I'm Your Alibi has a lot of great clips about breaking down Ahsoka's character. I highly recommend going and watching their videos, and the Clone Wars breakdown as well. And I wasn't able to be on with the spacing, but they were on the spacing not about maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago or whatever. I could be wrong on the time frame. So I highly recommend them if you want to learn further their breakdowns of Ahsoka's character and how she became a Mary Sue, or even in TCW when she became a Mary Sue. I highly recommend going to watch their videos. They break that down. They take their time. Well done videos. I highly recommend. So with this, like I said, I stand with this being brought out now because there's no confidence in the brand right now. And they're using appealing to authority to bring back the confidence, even though George Lucas really can care less about Star Wars. Yeah, he has made appearances on like The Mandalorian, and the Book of Boba Fett or whatever. Like those all cross, they all like blur together now. I don't quite remember which ones it's mostly Mandalorian. But that doesn't mean that he liked the direction of the stories. In fact, Harlem Interview basically states that. So George Lucas called me after Rogue. I had a 45-minute conversation with him after he saw Rogue. And that's the only time I've ever spoken to him. So this, like I said, this is after Rogue. So this is in 2016. He loved it. He really did, and had a lot of things to say that it was like a call from the president. So there's stuff left out. He had a lot of things to say, but what did he say? Was there more that you're not revealing that maybe he wasn't so happy about? So there's a lot left to question this here. And all I'm going to put out is this is brought out 7 years later because the company is not sure of the brand right now. And I'll leave it at that. Let me see what you guys have to say. Let's see here. I'm going to try to scroll up here as far as I can. Oh, you guys posted a lot. Let's see here. He can't speak badly of Disney products or their methods. They are we're already mad at him for the comparing them to slavers. Yeah, but that's George already did after years after that one on Harlem. Let's see here. He's even praised episode 8, yet he says that Disney's movies are nothing. He didn't praise episode 8 in a sense that it was a good show. He said it was beautifully made. However, that does not make a good story. So there's that. Mandalorian season 3 viewership dropped by 60%, especially after Lizzo episode. And I didn't really follow that, but I know that it wasn't well received. The Sentinel says there's no quote that exists on George Lucas on his opinion of Rogue, one either positive or negative. Gareth Edwards, that's the other one, and Tony Gilroy were given a sheet of paper to read from. And yes, so I was going to bring this up, and thank you again for reminding me. But the Sentinel pulled up Gareth Edwards' statement, which is a copy of what Tony Gilroy said. So it sounds like it's staged. I agree. It sounds like it's staged. Like the making of Dark Forces. So there you go. So there's that. Dark Forces 2, Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, they are all great games. I still have all 4 on PC. Yes, they are great games. If you guys haven't played them, you can get the Dark Forces trilogy novellas. So they're the little stories. I think it's the last one that can be very pricey to purchase. So if you don't have Dark Forces in your library, I highly recommend it. But the last one, the third one in the series, in the trilogy, is hard to get at a reasonable price. For whatever reason, it's the one that costs an arm and a leg. And Melissa continues with, I I'm sorry. It's one. Oh God. my internet. All of a sudden. It's Filoni. He doesn't want people to know the truth. Okay, it looks like it resolved itself now. Holy crap. What the hell happened there? I had my little rants, and all of a sudden, bam. Slight malfunction. OG's fine. She's fine. How y'all doing? I am back. It was like circling. My screen share kept on going off and on the screen. Yeah, I turned off my video to see if that resolved. We had the company come in for the internet connection to take care of some problems this past week, and looks like I don't know what's going on. Yeah, but I'm back. How y'all doing? All right. So since I'm being censored about this subject, we will move on to the next one. Holy heck. Holy hell. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. But, on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah. I wish I could play that song from Lighter Shade of Brown. That would have been cool. I was gonna plan on doing that song in the beginning, but that would have probably axed me. Like I probably would have got a copyright strike on that or whatever. But that would have been fun. If you guys know what I'm talking about, Lighter Shade of Brown, if you guys heard of them, there's a song called Sunday Afternoon. So very cool song. Really loved it growing up. Yeah, I guess I'm showing my age. So let's see here. Let me go ahead and share another thing that I wanted to talk about before I get censored some more. So here you go, you guys. This is what we're talking about here. So this goes into the PT stuff. This goes into a character, at least one that comes from the EU. And Star Wars just brought two iconic Jedi back from the dead. So hopefully I don't get silenced again. Abuna says, OG, you know Disney. Mm-hmm. They're like, cut her out. She's talking shit. She's making people think about this shit. Our product, we are failing, but we don't want people to realize that. We want them to think that, George Lucas is really positive about what we're putting out and stuff. And maybe people will start watching things again, and maybe viewership will go up and excited for Ahsoka. Yeah, whatever. So Captain Robert says, I've had a couple of live streams go sideways on me lately. Never fun. Yeah. It hardly happens anymore, but like I said, the internet was down. They were doing test runs and stuff, and all day one day, and thankfully that day I never had a live stream scheduled or anything like that. So I don't know what happened there. So Abuna says, OG, the Disney fake let's say fake Lucasfilm was interfering. And Jackson, just checking in, will catch the replay. Thank you so much, Jackson, for coming in and supporting. And Steven Saucedo, hey, yo, OG, how are you doing? We are starting to, come into our second article for Cringe Factor. So if you're tuning in, hit the like button, chill with us, CAF chat on a Sunday afternoon. And hopefully I don't get censored again. I'm just making light of my internet situation. So however it goes. But thank you for coming in and hanging out. This is actually fun hanging out with you guys. After I'm done here, I'm going to get back to beading some dance moccasins and stuff for my kid. And so just getting into the cultural aspect of life here. So thank you for tuning in. So we've been running for like hour and a half. So I usually run under 2 hours. So that's what we're going to settle with again, because it's a nice, cozy, fun time frame. So Dilly Squat says, how the fuck did Ayla survive all those blaster bolts, right? Yep. She was literally surrounded too on Felucia. So she was literally surrounded by her company. Let's see her. They've jammed the signal. They jammed the signal. Ayla Secura. Yeah. That's one of the Jedi probably a lot of people love is Ayla Secura. She is probably one of the faves that comes out of the EU. Dilly Squat says, what did Ayla got mad too? Like Maul? Well, if she was on the dark side, maybe that would make sense. Yeah, so I'm saying that very sarcastically because in a sense, I understand that as a dark side user like a Sith, and it's shown in the very powerful Siths of the ancient lore back in the Old Republic, thousands and thousands and thousands a year before this, that, you know, anger can sustain and stuff like that and make you stronger in the dark side. But did Palpatine really teach him that? That's where I question this, because when we get into the Rule of Two, and I'm going to go on a tangent right now about the Rule of Two and Maul and all this stuff, and using pain and stuff like that to, as a dark side user, to survive. We know the Rule of Two, especially if you really researched it, and shit, my internet's going to go bonkers again. I have a little warning sign on the top. Oh, there we go. Anyways, so the Rule of Two, the master does not fully train the person, their apprentice, in everything of the dark side. And I'm being hyperbolic with everything of the dark side. So they don't give him all the necessary teachings. They make him crave and want to know more. Because the Rule of Two basically is the apprentice wants to kill the master to become the master. So the master's not going to teach him everything at once. So, with that being said, was Maul taught everything? Probably not. So this is where we get into, like, was he really taught how the dark side can sustain him? So there's questions about that. You know, maybe that will be in for another time to talk with. Maybe I'll pull up some of his arc in the EU for that. All right. So anyways, yeah. So she wouldn't know any of that because her, you know, there was, unless she was directly trained. And we did know that she did go dark for a time, but doesn't mean that she learned everything either. If you know the story in the Republic comics. Apparently her clone had it set to stun. Her clones. Raspberry flavor. OG Battlefront 2 game, Ayla Secura was my favorite Jedi to play as. Awesome. Now I'm going to get exactly into this article. I want to read your guys' comments, and then we'll get into this article here. Okay, you guys? So hopefully when I pull away and look at the other screen from the screen, we don't have any technical difficulties. So Soul Assassin says, I found a comic online that they appear in. I don't read the Disney comics, but is the Dr. Aphra character force sensitive? Not that I know of. You know, I didn't fully research that, but from what I heard, she's not, because then it's probably a recording. Yeah. Yeah, the clones shoot at her point blank range beside her. Yeah. Dr. Aphra is garbage. That's all we need to know. Maul was more of a Sith warrior, a blunt instrument for Sidious. He used every single one of them as a instrument. Even Vader. Somehow Shakti and Ayla Secura returned. Somehow they returned. You know, cue in Poe when he says that about Sidious or Palpatine. This article was weird. Is that the Vision or something? We're going to get into that. It's cringy. It's weird. And then the person puts in their own insight. So let's get into it. Let's do this. Let's see, make sure I'm on the right one. Okay. And I'm going to watch you guys on my other screen to make sure. So if you guys lose me because of internet chat, let me know right away. All right. So here we go. So we have Ayla, which is crazy. Okay, I'm going to get into the Montrels of Togrutas. So Lakus are different than Montrels, right? If you know the lore on these species and stuff. Well, as the Togruta gets older, they do get longer. So why isn't Ahsoka's long? Now, don't give me the bullshit. Well, it's a movie and it's just more convenient and easy for the actress to have shorter. Well, you can CGI that shit, right? If you can CGI Luke's face onto another actor, you can CGI long Lacus or long mentrals or whatever, however you call it, whatever you call them. So I will just stick it to that and, and what have you. So my little note on that. So we're going to get into this article. So grab your drink, get comfortable, and comment. Prepare to type some crazy or type out what you think about this. I know you guys are already doing that. This is cringe factor for a reason. We all know Disney Star Wars is cringe factor as it is, and Screen Rat does reveal some truths about the direction Star Wars is being taken. So here we go. And we also know that I believe it's the Force Unleashed is Shakti's true death. And then Ayla died on Felucia during Order 66, during the beginning of the Purge. And she's one they strategically sent everyone out to. So that's the end of the war, is the Outer Rim sieges. And that's where the conclusion of the Clone Wars and the beginning of the Dark Times. So let's get into this. 2 iconic Jedi seemingly are killed in Star Wars Order 66 Purge have been brought back from their deaths. Jedi have a habit of coming back as Force ghosts after they die, but these 2 fallen Jedi do not appear to be apparatuses when they welcome Luke Skywalker into the Jedi Temple on Sason, or whatever that name is. So again, this is Disney lore. So just imagine this now. No one is truly gone. It's like kill your past unless you need them. Then they're not gone. That's how you sum up Disney Star Wars. Kill the past unless you need them. Then bring them back if you need them. There's no true consistency with the lore. It's like it's not even a history anymore. Like Star Wars under George Lucas, original Star Wars, was a history on its own. But not anymore. It's like when you don't need them, when you don't want to face reality that we're not, doing correct lore and pretend, sticking to the continuity, we'll kill the past. Then we can do whatever we want. But at the same time, if we write ourselves in the corner, let's bring something back or someone back. I don't know. Okay. So Star Wars Dr. Aphra, number 32 by Alyssa Wong, Min Q Jung, and Rachel Rosenberg, and Joe. Oh, wow. There's a lot of writers in here, I guess. Kamarmanga begins aboard Dr. Aphra's ship. She has kidnapped Luke Skywalker to help her gain entry to the Jedi Temple. How in the... Okay. Well, we know, like in Shadows of the Empire, Luke was kidnapped by bounty hunters, but he didn't stay kidnapped very long. How the fuck do you kidnap Luke Skywalker when he can easily get out of situations, in a sense, by using the Force? Okay, but anyways, I digress from that. Like I said, there's times when he was kidnapped, but he got himself out of the situation. So we'll see what happens here. Okay. She convinces him to help her by showing him a hollow message from Shakti, a Jedi. Oh, so she kidnapped him, but then she convinces him. Okay. A Jedi general from the Clone Wars era. Shakti is warning fellow Jedi Knight Ayla Secura about a weapon too powerful to let fall into Sith hands. Wait a minute here. No one knew about the Death Star at that time. Is that what this is alluding to? What? Okay, anyways, I'm not going to get into that right now. But Shakti knew of a super weapon or a weapon too powerful to let fall in the Sith hands. The Sith created the motherfucking thing. Anyways, if they're thinking of the Death Star, the Sith ordered the Death Star. Okay. When she hid hid in the Assassin Temple, Skywalkers. So this is when she hid in the Assassin Temples. That's when she was warning Ayla during the time frame. Skywalker's interest is piqued by the Jedi's message from the beyond, and he agrees to help Afra find a way into the temple. However, when they finally make their way inside, Shakti and Ayla Secura are waiting for them. What? They're waiting for them. Ayla Secura and Shakti are back. This issue ends with Shakti and Ayla Secura looking down on the two intruders, lightsabers drawn and no blue glow. Force ghosts are not flesh and blood, rather they are force representation of a Jedi form of physical form. As the two stern-looking Jedi are without a glow, it seems that they are truly physically present. If this moment is as it seems, it's the most significant Jedi resurrection following Order 66. All right. While the Sith had ways of constituting their physical bodies, this was tied to the dark side of their unwillingness to let go of the physical power. And Jedi have no comparable abilities to the Star Wars fans know. There are no ability that Star Wars fans know. There are a few that would give the same impression. Is this huge Jedi resurrection really possible? And let me see who wrote this, because I didn't even see who wrote this article here. Grant Gregory. I think we talked about this guy before. So Grant Gregory. So in Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker was able to project his physical form all the way to another planet to battle Kylo Ren. And don't tell me that this person's trying to say this is a force projection over time. What the hell? And it's like a holocron. It's not physical form, which could somehow explain what's going on. The world's between worlds. Here we go, you guys. It's not time travel. Filoni said, "Fuck that shit. It's time travel." A time travel realm that was introduced in the final season of Star Wars: The Rebels, whatever, could also explain how Jedi could be inside that temple about 20 years after they died. What the fuck? Whatever happened to the Force course correcting paths? Like when Jason Solo flow walked, anything he may have manipulated, the Force would correct it. So making time travel something that does not change anything. In a sense, that's looking back or forward into time. Luke also recently encountered the living sea of Gazian. So I don't even know what the hell that is in Disney Star Wars, which stored a memory form. Oh, so this is like the Lakes of Apparition in a sense. Memory form of every Force user who had ever visited it. So Lake of Apparition is a little bit different, but you still get to see like Jedi or Force users that are atoning for what they have done in the past, I guess you can say. But anyways, the world seemed unique, but it again gave Luke at least the illusion of meeting past Jedi face to face. So it's possible Ayla, Secura, and Shakti can only manifest at this particular temple. Why though? Why? Especially when they haven't even learned how to become Force ghosts. And just because, Shakti, Ayla was fucking killed on Felucia by her clone troopers. How in the hell can she manifest? She wasn't even taught to be a Force ghost because that was something that wasn't taught until after, by Yoda and by Qui-Gon, after Order 66. So it's an illusion meeting past Jedi face to face. So it's a possible Ayla and Shakti can only manifest this particular temple. Suffice to say, there are ways for these Jedi to return without betraying established canon. This will betray it because, again, you're forgetting they can't manifest in any way because they were never taught to manifest in any other way, shape, or form. And then they go on to say, however, perhaps they never died at all. All right, so I'm done with this. I'm not going to go into any theories. We know that she died here. She was left to die. But we also know that Jedi are never truly gone anymore, or no one's truly gone. Like, kill the past if you have to. However, if you need them to come back because you wrote yourself in a fucking corner, then do it. That's Disney Star Wars in a motherfucking nutshell. And I probably lose monetization for my cussing, but that's how I feel. There's no consistency anymore. It's like you're willing to dig these graves of these past Jedi who died up to bring them back because you can't create any original fun characters anymore. You must dig up the past to make people interested in the future of Star Wars. This is where we're at. Member berries galore. There's a reason why a lot of these Jedi died. As tragic as it may be, Luke is the one that needs to recreate the new Jedi Order to make amends of past discretions of the old order, like attachment and having family and stuff like that. And he needs to be the one that is basically the only one left during the time of Return of the Jedi. Having these guys return in any way, shape, or form not only takes away their legacy and the PT legacy arc, it diminishes the future. So here we go. Order 66. Palpatine really wasn't very smart. He wasn't, God. With Order 66, it's now a huge failure, I guess you can say. Because if these two survived in any way, shape, or form and have been hidden all this time, where were they fucking at for Luke during the time of the OT? I'm going to say this still because we could say that with Ahsoka as well. Where were they to help the Rebel Alliance? See the questions this all brings up? The decision they make with these plots that they're creating, like these storylines are creating by resurrecting, just so they could say, oh, guess what? Sure, Luke Skywalker got to meet Ayla and Shakti. Woo! We have the Jedi versus Sith source book. And with the help of Tion Celusar, that's where Luke learns, is through his research in his collecting data from the past that wasn't destroyed by the Empire. and collecting all that information and then writing it down and putting together in a history, learning and trying to puzzle things together, learning about these Jedi here. That was a better way of him learning, and I guess you can say, quote unquote, meeting these Jedi, was through his research of the past Jedi Order. But now all of a sudden they need to be front and center for him. It's Jedi of the Week with Luke Skywalker. All right, so here we go. So we're going past 2 hours, and that's okay. This is the end of it. So let me see what you guys have to say. Kill the past, bring it back, then kill it again. Resurrect it one more time, and then go off again. There you go. I remember when Hello Greedo compared the EU to being Pet Cemetery with bringing back characters. But this is more accurate to Disney canon, right? I mean, there was a lot. I mean, not many characters were brought back in the original lore, really. The dead speak. The dead speak, right? The scene with Shakti is deleted scene of episode 3, right? And that's a deleted scene with her, not canon. We need OG t-shirts saying censor that shit. Right? Censor that shit. I can bring up my 2-disc DVD set of this article when wants to go toe to toe. Yeah. Let's see here. It's not time travel. It's walking from one point to another in time. Totally different. Clown face, right? You're going from time frame to time frame. That's time. Damn. Wrap your head around that shit. Like Filoni tried so hard to wrap his head around world between world is not time travel. Oh my God. You're traveling from time period to time period. Tell me that's not time traveling. Oh my God. Only Quinlan and Yoda rediscovered that ability. So they forced phantoms like the Sith. Kind of like, Exar Kun, where he's stuck, like he's a force phantom and he's stuck there at the the temple there. Coherency and consistency takes talent that Lucasfilm lacks in spades. And interpretation may be that go straight to the Force Ghost. It takes a bit of mental preparation, like Obi-Wan before Vader struck him down. If you don't prepare like Qui-Gon, it takes longer. And it depends on how strong you are in the Force as well. So it's true that Order 66 was called that because it only killed 66 Jedi. And everybody else survived somehow. Right? I mean, we could laugh at this crazy shit now, and I hope Raging Rhino is watching this, or he gets to watch the replay, because he has his particular opinion about Order 66 already. This is really going to feed into that. So Raging Rhino, if you're watching, leave me a comment or leave me a DM or whatever. Let's see here. Might as well bring back General Grievous. He just only exploded and caught on fire with his 2 or 3 last remaining organs. No, but he can survive somehow, right? They survive. They come back. It's Jedi of the Week. Oh yeah, I read that one. Let me take a drink. And because my internet did freak out on me, I'm going to keep myself off screen now before we close out. I'm going to stay behind and just show my avatar. Captain Robert says, the explanation is likely that the survivors cut themselves off from the Force, found remote planets to hide out on, and just... How the hell can you cut yourself off of the Force when you're fucking dead? A lot of things Hello Greedo said would have aged like milk. Ooh, it got really cheesy, rotten, nasty bullshit, huh? Filoni Jabroni is a dumbass. World Between Worlds is time travel. There doesn't have to be a DeLorean going 88 miles an hour just to be time travel. Oh my God, you gotta laugh at this crazy cringe factor shit, right? I mean, like I said, there's truth behind this. Like Screen Rat, is a cringe sight, right? But there is truth behind what these guys are showing and revealing to us. And it's so fucking cringy. Soul Assassin says Sith use rituals to keep their spirits around, but are limited to the space they inhabit, like tombs on Yavin 4 for Exar. Yeah. You never lied about that, Melissa. I know she's. Let's see. Rhino will eviscerate this article, right? That's why I was hoping. I knew I was going to use this article. I was hoping that, I had, like I said, I was on a personal hiatus for reasons. And I bet you if I didn't go on my little hiatus and Raging and saying this, he would have used this. All right. I would actually like Ahsoka if she died in Order 66. Yeah, she's outlived. She is outlived immensely. She doesn't belong past Revenge of the Sith. And I agree with Tim. And I've been watching everybody go shit back crazy for his take, but Ahsoka doesn't belong in real Star Wars. And I truly thought about that, even with the TCW movie. I'm like, George, what are you thinking giving Anakin apprentice? And then I thought, okay, well, then this will be another reason why he starts going dark, blah, 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 blah. Because it's about attachment, right? And his manipulation, the manipulation of Palpatine towards Anakin. This can feed into that. Okay, I can see kind of where George is going with this. I will give benefit of the doubt. No. Filoni's like, I love this character so much. She's my babe. I'm going to keep her around. She gives me a boner. I just love her so much. Yeah, I'm going there. Yeah. Anyways, OG Uncut. Haha, someone has to put new heart in Grievous. It's hilarious for sure. So there you go, you guys. Thank you for hanging out with me for CAF Chat on a Sunday afternoon. I had fun with you guys. I do now have to start getting into real life aspects and get shit done on my end here, which the shit is something fun that I'm doing, and that's beadwork. That's creating moccasins and all of that, and beading the moccasin top and putting them together. I really, really love that. So hopefully you guys got a laugh out of me with this cringe factor article, and and are coming to terms and truth with the direction Disney is continuing to take the lore. True, authentic lore is George Lucas era. And I will continue to say this no matter how many shills I get pissed off at me. I mean, they say what? The truth hurts. So let that shit burn. Let it burn. Let it all go down. Let it burn. So thank you guys again for tuning in, hanging out with me. Regular schedule next week, Thursday. And I had fun. Oh, you guys are really... I see you guys bringing up comments here. I got to read this one. I just realized that this episode of Cat Chat is the most interesting, uncensored, unhinged show that we've ever had. OG, honey, give me more. This is like, they say Sunday afternoons is like a low-key thing. No, I'm on fire. But, we're coming out of a full moon. So maybe that. I don't know. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. And let me see here. Bead, slave Leia outfit, bikini, perhaps just trying to get OG in a bikini for Abu. And for everybody else, like I said, I was going to come in wearing Leia's Endor outfit. And that was too big. I thought I got the right size. So, but I kept you guys wondering which Leia outfit it was going to be. A lot of you guys thought it was going to be the slave Leia, but one day I will come in on a slave Leia outfit and you guys will be like, what the hell? We weren't expecting that. And I'll try to do my hair just like hers. It's long enough now to do my hair just like hers. And we'll talk and nerd out about Star Wars. I am on a fitness plan and goal of being featured in Bombshell Fitness Calendar. So I'm in the challenge right now. So I will be asking you guys to vote for me once, if I make it in the semifinals, once that fruitions. So stay tuned for that. And then once the calendar comes out, if when I make it, and I'm manifesting that shit, okay, you guys. But once I make it in the calendar and the calendar's printed, then you guys can buy a copy of the calendar as well. So I'm excited about that. And then I will do a Slave Leia too. So there you go. I don't know if it's going to be for the calendar. It's their theme. I have no idea what their theme is going to be. So, but anyways, thank you guys for allowing me to rant and carry on and listening to me get pissy at this article, um, and cringe and talk shit and all that. You guys, it was a fun time. Thank you once again, and have a good day. And may the force be with you.
I had fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
Another happy landing.